Hell Is Us behind the scenes today.
And the art director on Hell Is Us. I hope you enjoyed the trailer that you've seen recently. Today we're back in the spotlight. We're going to show you a bit of gameplay, a bit more than what you've seen in the trailer, and I hope that you will enjoy this part greatly. All right, so let's start with the basics. So,
you know what it's giving me vibes? It's giving me Returnal vibes. It's a game that came out, I think it was came out when the PS5 came out. I did enjoy Returnal. It's just that I felt like the difficulty was way too high for the rewards you got in the game and never finished it. It was like a roguelike. And I'm hoping this is a roguelike too.
Hell Is Us is set to be released in 2025. It's for pretty much everything. So Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, and PC.
So they had an Xbox game at a Sony State of Play. Interesting.
So the game is a bit of a take back to games from the 1990s. We're a team of passionate people. The average on the team is like 20 years of development experience. So we're from a different generations and we have a lot of love for how the games in the 90s were made and how they were played and
You know, for a game that's actually in its alpha footage, this is looking kind of good. You know, the forest is very dense. It doesn't feel uniform. It actually feels kind of like a real forest, which I'm actually really liking.
Experience, especially the fact that, you know, there was no hand holding, there was no silver plattering. You kind of had to figure stuff out by yourself. You were really in control of your exploration and your own discoveries. And this is what we're trying to do in Hell Is Us. Obviously with modern flair and kind of like modern knowledge of game design and whatnot, but very much puts you back in the driver's seat of your experience and of your exploration, and then the result and the joy of your discoveries. So Hell Is Us takes place in a country called Hadia. Hadia is in the grips of a vicious civil war. You play the role of Remy. Remy is actually from Hadia. He was born there, but his mom smuggled him out at the age of 5, like it sometimes happens in those countries. And what I mean by that is
a war-torn country that you just dive back into because you gotta be the hero that nobody asked for.
Hadia is a hermit state, is a turtle state. It's completely closed off on itself. Nobody goes out, nobody comes in, and that's why.
Then how did you get in if nobody comes out and nobody goes in?
Remy's mom decided to smuggle him out so he can have a better life. He grew up in the foster home system, or the foster system in Canada. He's always wanted.
That's it, there we go. This dude's from Canada, most likely from Montreal.
To come
Canada represent.
Back to Hadia. He wants to find his parents again. He wants to kind of like confront them. He's got a lot of questions for them. He understands.
Confront them? Bro, we sent you out to survive. Why are you angry at me?
Understands why they abandon him, but yet, you know, abandonment is pretty much the biggest trauma that a child can have. And there's like a loop that hasn't been closed properly for him towards this situation and his.
So abandonment sucks, yes. However, getting a spoon broken on your bare ass is a...
His parents. When the game starts, Remy has finally been able to infiltrate Hadia during the brutal civil war that I was talking about. Remy is...
What are you, like a reporter trying to break into Baghdad or something? What's going on over here, Remy? Remy, your parents sent you off for a better life and you decide to come back to this war-torn country? Bro, if I was your dad, I'd be so angry. Be like, God damn it, Remy.
ON.
His parents are probably dead.
Peacekeeper. He quit his post. He went AWOL. Infiltrated the country, and this is where the game starts. Remy remembers 2 things, and that means the players remember 2 things. It's that his village...
Manual save. That is very interesting. I guess we won't be able to just walk around and save whenever we want to. We're actually going to have legitimate checkpoints. I am here for that. I think that some games are just a little too forgiving with their saves. We don't need to go all Elden Ring. We don't need to go that far, but a little bit of tension, a little bit of pressure is a nice feeling.
Village of birth was called Jova, and his father was the blacksmith of Jova. Those are the only clues you begin the game with, and these are the only clues that Remy also know. So equipped with this knowledge, with these clues, you begin the game and you try to find your way to Jova.
You must be lost to wander around Sinedra Forest. I'm afraid I have very little to offer. A group of strange-looking soldiers arrived here last night in an APC. And perhaps you can ask them for help. It's not the first time I've seen them. They always seem to be snooping around here for something. They parked their APC just beyond the woods, to the north. Once in the woods...
Did that question show up after he finished this thing? Because the question is, like, they edited that in, right? So what do we have? Investigation and general knowledge. General knowledge, Hadia, Civil War, ON Peacekeepers, and Sabinians. And then investigation, Ernest Cadell, who are you? Fair enough. Village of Jova, and then APC. So I'm guessing like any NPC you speak to will have information on those 4 things. And when you speak to specific NPCs, their dialogue will open up to you as you ask them more and more questions, which is definitely interesting.
Woods.
Is that just milk? Okay.
Follow the wind chimes. They will lead the way through. The gate to enter the woods is locked. Here. Take this key to unlock it.
How do you have this key and why do you trust me?
Okay, so let's talk about this design philosophy that I've mentioned earlier, which is, I said the word silver plattering, is something that I had been thinking about for quite a few years, and the team as well, which is, if you look at modern day or contemporary adventure games and RPGs, pretty much everything is given to you on a silver platter. What I mean by that is when you explore, everything appears in front of you. You have your compass on top of you that's like a sixth sense, like a magical sense that detects, all the caves and all the cool stuff around you and the towers and this and whatnot. It just appears magically. And you have your map, and you have your mini map, and you have your quest markers, and you have your objective markers, and you can drop your own markers, and you have your quest journals, and it just never ends. And if you think about it, what happens with that is that you're not truly exploring. You're just kind of like flying by wire.
Bro, true facts. I remember when I was playing God of War Ragnarok, or even God of War 2018, my eyes, the entire time I play other than the combat, obviously, my eyes were just like this the entire time. I'm just staring at the compass, not actually enjoying the scenery around me and actually intaking everything around me, which is why I went into the immersive mode so that I could actually enjoy what I'm doing. I think that having a video game be more immersive is great. However, just for success, right, for profit reasons, I think it's always a good idea for there to be some type of compass, some type of mini-map, or even just a regular map, because like for myself, I love action games. I am not a collection kind of guy. I am not a explorer type person when it comes to areas. I will if I think there's a boss in that area, because I like to fight bosses, but I'm not just going everywhere constantly just looking for stuff. And my sense of direction in video games, not super great. So I hope for the longevity of the game, that not for let's say longevity of the game, but I hope just to have a broader audience, that they give us the option of like, yo, here's a navigation mode, but also here is an immersive mode, and the default setting should be immersive, no navigation, but have something for the people that are not, as exploratory adept.
And when you find something, it's not really your discovery. It was kind of handed to you on a silver platter. So what you're looking at now is we're having a discussion with a bloke named Ernest Cadell. He's telling us certain information, and then he tells us it's quite far. You need to hitch a ride. You might find people that are willing to give you a ride. It's up to the north of my house, so you're gonna have to use your compass, but your real compass, right, with the coordinates on it, north, south, east, west, blah, 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 and follow that. And he tells you that in the Lost Woods, in order to find your way out, just follow the wind chimes. He says, I've attached them there for my kids when they were young because they kept on getting lost in those bloody woods. And then
that is genius. Follow the wind chimes instead of follow the yellow paint. Follow the symbols that are just painted onto every direction. I'm looking at you, God of War. Not that it was bad. It was great for when it came out, but I really like the direction they're taking this in. It's like they're trying to tell a story visually instead of just having you sit through another cutscene.
Tells you, follow the sound of the wind chimes and you'll find your way on the other side of the woods. That's how we do it. It's very organic. It's very realistic. Someone in real life could have told you the exact same thing. So the environments, the visuals of the game are not just there to illustrate, they're there to communicate. So you need to play the game, you need to open your eyes, you need to open your ears to what NPCs tell you, and you'll find your way and you'll discover things and you will truly own your discoveries and the great joy.
Sorry. There we go, much better.
With that.
A lot of walking around. Let me see some of that. Let me see some of that action combat, man. And like you can really hear the wind chimes like well.
So here's another scene or another section that could be considered part of our player plattering philosophy. So here's a puzzle, and there's obviously...
So you are wearing different clothes. I really hope it's customizable like gear pieces you get and not like story beats. However, again, this is alpha footage, so we're not going to see much. But from the trailer, I did see him wear like multiple different raincoats. So I would not be surprised if we're going to get like actual gear pieces and not just like, here's another raincoat. Here's another raincoat. Oh, you've beaten chapter 3. Well, here's another raincoat.
A solution to the puzzle, but nothing eventually is going to tell you, if the player ends up kind of like taking a bit of time to find a solution. There's not going to be any artificial...
Bro, in God of War 2018, God of War Ragnarok, you would get to the puzzle and within like 30 seconds, the Triss would be like, what about that block over there? Try hitting it. Try lowering it. Hey. So yeah, I mean, I'm not against hints, but chill out with the hints, dog.
Kind of ways that are going to help him or tell him what to do. Remy's not going to start talking to himself, or i.e. talking to the player with, little clues and whatever. It's really up to you to figure them out. And in the way that the player plattering is inserted in this...
To be fair, I be talking to myself all the time, so I don't have an issue when the NPC talks to themselves, because I be doing that in real life. And if I'm trying to solve something, I will say these things out loud, but that's just me. Maybe I just have a touch of autism.
So we have a good example here with your trusty drone named Cappy. By the way, you can tell now that Remy has his poncho and he has his sword and he has his drone. So it's after he's acquired them, right? Because at the beginning of the game, you saw he was not dressed like that. Now there's a reason why he ends up dressed like this. There's a reason why he needs these things, this equipment, but we don't need to get into these details today. So anyway, there's an ancient language in the country and you kind of find it throughout the game.
I swear to God, this is a 15-minute trailer. There better be some type of gameplay. Combat.
And the drone has a software, one of his many softwares, and this specific one can translate the ancient language.
i.e., the drone can be upgraded. You need to find new softwares to install into the drone, and possibly you can't have all the softwares at the same time. That's what I'm getting from that little tidbit sentence.
So this puzzle, the way that it works, you need to kind of like explore and observe your environment around this specific puzzle in order to find the clues on how to solve it. You need the drone, your trusty Cappy. His name is Cappy. Also, there's something behind that, of course. And you
short for capybara, called it.
Translate those old texts. It gives you little passages of a poem or a psalm or something like that. And through what they tell you and the order in which they seem to have to be pieced back together, you find your clues on what this puzzle does and how to solve it. So again, the players are kind of like just led to their own devices, but things are there, the answers are there, and you have to explore. And again, I repeat it, you have to open your eyes.
First, the sinner is brought to the tower. So the sinner is probably like the skull, the tower is the tower, and I didn't read the first piece of information. That's cool. You have to like really decipher these things for yourself.
And open your ears, and you'll figure it out.
The flame, the moon, the two-headed serpent.
So by now, you've seen a lot of what I guess is like exploration and looking around and talking to people and doing puzzles and all that kind of sweet stuff. But if you've seen the trailer, you of course notice that there's another big aspect to the game, which is third-person melee combat. So we like to say that the game is 50% exploration and 50% combat. The game is not at all only about combat.
This is going to be a hard sell because I myself, if there's going to be exploration in the game, that exploration needs to lead into combat for me to feel some type of reward, or like it needs to lead to gear, it needs to lead to upgrades, it needs to lead to something that is going to enhance the combat aspect of the game. In most games that are combat / exploration, it's more like 70% combat, 30% exploration. So to have something that's really 50-50, you're attracting two different crowds, not very different, but two different crowds, and you're asking them to meet in the middle somewhere, and people generally don't like that. So I think that Hell Is Us it's either going to be very, very niche, and it's going to be hard to become mainstream because it's too equal in it.
And it's definitely not at all just walking around and figuring stuff out. It's the combination of both, and we also think that the way that we've combined them is quite refreshing and quite unique in Hell Is Us. So, like I said, combat is an integral part of the game. I do want to emphasize now that we're not...
What do we have over here? So L2 gives you access to your abilities. This over here is probably what your drone is able to do. Then you have your sword, which is 4. So you can do something 4 times with your sword. This is probably like your energy / mana meter, which is linked to the weapon that you have. So using this bar allows you to do this 4 times. I don't know what it is. Then you have your health and your stamina below is what I'm guessing. Your regular lock-on, regular health, no stamina, and then 2 purple bars, which I'm going to assume is their version of a posture meter.
Not a Souls-like game. The game is a lot more mid-core. It's have fun, get in it, and hack and slash. It doesn't mean it's easy. It's not overly hard. There's a learning curve. There's subtleties. There's little things that we've invented just for the flair.
Yeah, okay. So as you guys saw, as soon as the purple bars disappeared, the green icon turned red, which will now open him up to like a visceral or a critical attack, whatever you want to call it.
And the flavor of Hell Is Us. It's very crunchy. I think the friction is pretty good, and I hope you'll enjoy it.
Okay, wait, we got a little bit more information over here. He can charge his ability, which cost mana, but it did not affect the 4 over here, and he used a special skill. So we still don't know what this 4 means, but it is some type of consumable not related to the mana bar.
I think the friction is pretty good, and I hope you'll enjoy it. So there's a wide variety of...
New weapon, okay, and this weapon, we got 2 skills now. We have Blade 1, and he's not using a blade. And then we have R2. So R2 is going to be your drone skills. This looks like maybe a teleporter, invisible, cyclone, bombard, and maybe this is a charge ability. And then L2 is going to be your character's ability. Now this is a sword, and this is like a pike. So maybe this is a throwable weapon.
Enemies in the game. So we have...
Oh, this enemy also has a mana bar, like you. So this enemy has special attacks.
Kind of like the more common enemy type, which we call the Hollow Walker. So it's these kind of humanoid, bipedal, white enemies that you can see here with the holes in their faces and their chests and whatnot. So obviously there's a reason why they're called Hollow Walkers, and there's different types of them and different kind of tiers of strength and powers. But when you're facing pretty much the biggest threats in the game, it's what we call like a dual entity. So it's like powers. But when you're facing...
Okay, so every time you attack, you actually refill your mana bar. That's good to know. And damage numbers. Love to see it. We've got white numbers and we've got red numbers. And this spin attack is actually your drone's ability. You see the drone is popping off, and the skill is also lit up. I'm guessing the red damage numbers are HP, and the white damage numbers are like the posture.
Pretty much the biggest threats in the game, it's what we call like a dual entity.
Yeah, so it's the posture, because this guy, his health bar is brown, and the bar over here, that's the stamina, and then over here is his guard, I guess, and that number was red for him, but it was a regular color for him, red for him.
So it's like Hollow Walker has a haze inside of it. So it's when the haze is present. I'm not going to get into the details right away of what the haze represents.
Yeah.
It's all part of the...
It was a charge, called it.
Out in the game. But when you're facing a combo like these dual entities, and it can go to like 3 of them, 4 of them, there's the herders, there's the fervents, and different types like that. But that's when you really need to master the combat system. That's when you start having to use all the tools and techniques at your disposal. The drone has tons of skills to upgrade it, and the drone is very much your little sidekick to help you in fighting multiple enemies at a time. He's not a sidekick in the sense where he talks and he has an AI. He's very much a drone that has its own protocol to do this crowd management during the combat. So you have your different weapons, you have your limbic skills, attack to weapons, which is basically you consider as your magic, even though in the game it's not considered magic, there's kind of like a scientific base to them. But that's when you really need to master all the little subtleties of the combat system, use all the tools in your arsenal and at your disposition, and get in the melee with the combat system, crowd management.
So there's this bar here next to his health, and it seems like whenever he attacks, that there's a little tidbit over here that becomes gray. And then I'm not sure if you heal after the combo or when you kill an enemy.
During the combat. So you have your different weapons, you have your limbic skills, attack to weapons, which is basically you consider as your magic, even though in the game it's not considered magic, there's kind of like a scientific base to them. But that's when you really need to master all the little subtleties of the combat system, use all the tools in your arsenal and at your disposition, and get in the melee with these kind of dual or triple or quadruple entities and being able to manage them and
finishers.
So like I mentioned, here specifically, you can see a combat against a limbic entity that has multiple hazes attached to the Hollow Walker. That's when it gets really complex, it gets very overwhelming because you're alone.
Okay, so these are hazes and this is the big baddie, or this is the big baddie and these are the hazes. I'm guessing if you beat this thing, they both die, but this thing is powering them up and they're being super aggressive towards you. That's just my guess.
You got your trusty little Cappy. So you need to use its skill. So for example, Cappy has a skill where you can distract an entity, either a haze or a Hollow Walker. You can use the forward charge, which is one of my favorite. You also have the Typhoon. You have
we've got quite a few weapons. So far, I've seen sword, I've seen dual wield axe, we've seen great sword, and we've seen a pike. And it seems like every single weapon is going to come with their own abilities. I don't know if you can just equip these abilities with whatever weapon, or like the abilities are locked behind said weapon. I think they're going to be locked per weapon, and it's not going to be a free-for-all.
Skill, which is another one of my favorites, so you can start dashing sideways, forward, backwards, really, really fast. It gives you like this Japanese action game style. And then you also have your limbic skill, so you need to find the glyphs in the game and you need to attach them to your weapons. And this is when you start getting powers that come from these weapons that allow you to take care of these enemies in much more powerful and kind of like impressive ways. That's when the VFX and the sound effects all come together and give you this combat bang that we all like and love. Okay, so now let's take a little pause from the combat and let's go back to the investigation and the exploration. So, like I said, there's no silver plattering. There's none of these kind of like fly-by-wire. It's up to you to figure out what your kicker is. What I mean by kicker is what you're supposed to achieve at this specific moment, what you're actually looking for, where to look for it, and how to look for it, right? Remy and the players are at a ratio of information which is 1-1.
It's in Akasa Marshes. It's quite a ways from here.
So one of the tools that we're providing you to still kind of help you a bit and manage this 1-1 kind of like knowledge ratio is your data pad. Think of it as a bit your investigation wall, if you want, but in a digital 90s format. So your clues, your leads, the important people that are related to your investigation, trying to find your parents and a lot more eventually, are all stored here. They're linked together by the relationships, and now it's up to you to go and investigate about them.
I honestly think that this game is not going to do well publicly because it requires too much attention from the players, and we currently live in a generation where everything is now fast. I mean, look at Reels, TikTok, YouTube Shorts. People don't have the kind of attention span that the developers are asking for. I think it's going to do extremely well amongst older audiences, streamers, YouTubers, content creators, but I don't think it's going to do super well in the general mass, simply because it requires too much attention.
So as you can see here, some of the areas can be quite wide opened. This one here called the Casa Marshes is one of the bigger ones. And as I spoke quite a bit already, the game doesn't hold your hand or doesn't really tell you where to go. So out of your main leads or clues or ideas that you have in your head of what you're supposed to do or where you're supposed to go at any given moment, you will also be attracted by a lot of points of interest or just little things in the environment that pique your curiosity. And as you walk towards them or explore, that's when you'll start also making a ton of like peripheral side.
I didn't even see that. Look at all these people. Ugh. Yeah, interesting idea for a game. Okay, cool. We're setting the tone quite early.
Discoveries on your own, things that you cannot solve right away, or things that you might think that there is a thing to be done with it when there's none, and it's all part of the fun stuff and the kind of like experience that we're providing in the game. So as you can see here, there's a tree with people that have been hung. Like I said, this takes place during a very vicious civil war between two different ethnicities in the countries that are still basically the exact same people. And you found this tree. It's actually not part of the
The whites and the whiters.
golden path or not part of something tremendously important in the game, but there's still something around it. There's still something to be found, and it's probably linked to more stuff that you can do in relation to it. But that you had to do your own exploration to find it, and even more of your own exploration and investigation to figure out what it's linked to and what you can do from.
This is like a Souls game, but a bit more action heavy. So not as difficult, but they want the same kind of exploration and attention to detail as you would play a Souls game. Now, the reason why Elden Ring did so well is because it really built upon itself. The From Software built upon itself, and eventually they were able to release Elden Ring into the masses to great success. Hell is Us is very new, and I think that a lot of people are going to buy the game thinking that it's an action game, and they're going to be disappointed because they're like, oh, it's not enough action, not enough combat, because the game looks very actiony. And unless you're actually paying attention and watching these videos, you're not going to find out until you've already bought the game or listened to a bunch of reviews.
It if you want. So here we are in a dungeon in the game. So yes, the game has dungeons. This was really important to us. Like I said at the beginning, there's a bit of a love letter to games from the 90s. But one of the challenges was the game takes place in a contemporary setting. The game takes place in 1993. And yet we still wanted dungeons.
The year I was born, greatest year known to mankind to date.
In the game, and I didn't want the dungeons to take place in an abandoned metro station or, you know, in an abandoned factory because it's the modern era. I still wanted the dungeons to be very ancient things. And this brings us to another really important aspect of the game, or one of the very important themes of the game, which is history, historicity, deep history. So history that goes even before history. So there's a lot of mysteries and a lot of lore, and the origin of what's going on in the country and the link to the Civil War is all tied to that deep history and also what has happened since. I won't get into too much details because that will be part of another video for you guys, but you can see a bit of it here, and it shows you the varied palettes and moods and atmospheres that we have in the game, which also I think is something quite interesting and unique that we're doing in Hell is Us.
I'm interested.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for being with us. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm extremely grateful to have you guys following us, the team as well. So just to repeat, the game Hell is Us will be released in 2025 as Xbox Series, PlayStation 5, and PC. And there's a lot more coming soon about the game. This is just the beginning. We'll explain other aspects of it and get into sometimes a bit of the minutia. So stay tuned and speak to you soon. Thank you.
You know, I have to say the most interesting part for me is that they're doing something that I've been asking for, is to have more games in modern times or in the future where it's melee focused. Okay, I'm tired of playing modern day games or modern era or games where it's the future and it's all about like FPS or shooting or third-person shooters. I love the fact that it's in modern times and we're using melee weapons. Listen, I am definitely interested in Hell is Us. I will be following up and I'll be making more videos about it. If you're interested, be sure you hit subscribe. As always, links in the description down below. While you're down there, don't forget to hit like, share, favorite, and subscribe. All that good stuff because we're trying to hit 400 before the end of the month. And if you don't want to help, remember, at the end of the day, I'm just some guy on the internet, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. If you want to see more of my face, be sure to click the video you see on screen right now.